Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second part of Series 4, uh, Food. Last time I talked about water. Now that your water intake is good, if you have any questions, please let me know. But your water intake needs to be sufficient and, well, actually, custom made to you. Otherwise, all the diet, nutrition, all those things, they don't make sense. Because when you don't have enough fluids in your body to transport anything, then it's all just useless. So this is your the water was the first step in this episode, but it's also the first step towards a proper diet and proper nutrition. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about diet today because there are so many different types of diet, and people keep talking about it, and a lot of people say, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. The thing is, you cannot say that because of the simple fact that people are different, people have different needs, and it would be quite idiotic to have everybody follow the same diet. It just doesn't work. And as I explained in the other series as well, when you create an earth or a society in which all of the people are the same, then you take all of the dynamics out of life, and life is just, besides the fact that it's not worth living anymore, it makes no sense, because it's the lessons that we learn from our diversity, because diversity is not about the things they're using right now, like sexuality and race. And no, diversity is about different opinions. And you'd be surprised how many different groups that are actually set up against each other these days agree on so many things. So why wouldn't there be a healthy conversation? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so custom made diet. Well, there are some basic things. And I hate to say it, but there are just some people that need meat. And actually, I've been diving into this carnivore diet. Now, I actually tried it for a bit. It doesn't help as well for me as it did with other people, but I've seen other people really get a lot better with the carnivore diet. So there's people out there that only eat meat, and most of them uh, end up with beef only. Now, that seems cruel to a lot of people, but you know, if your choice is on the one hand eating all sorts of stuff and having all sorts of problems, which can be very serious, by the way, because this whole autoimmune thing that seems to be caused in these people by carbohydrates and that kind of stuff, sugar, dairy. So the other option they have is eat beef and have no problems. So in light of what are you trying to take that away from them? I mean, it makes no sense. And some people will do great on a vegetarian diet. Most people do not do great on a vegan diet because they are going to be missing some animal proteins, because there are some simple ingredients in there that cannot be replaced in high dosages in other stuff. So that means that you would have to eat copious amounts of this, and that's just not that's just not a realistic idea. So diet is a tricky thing. So be careful when you say to someone, well, you have to be vegan, because some of these people have tried vegan and they got very swiftly very close to death. So please be careful with what you say, or even with what you recommend to someone. I wouldn't just recommend any diet to anyone. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that have dietary problems, and I tend to give them advice, but carefully. The one thing that I find very important is that if you recommend a diet to someone, make sure that it's a recommendation and that you use the word try. Because some of these people, they go all in and they go, oh, I've been recommended this, so this is what I have to do. Because that seems to be the whole, let's say, energy of people these days. When they are convinced that something is good, then everybody should do it. And once again, that kills the whole dynamic of the earth, or even just our interhuman connections. So we should learn from each other. And for some people, it's flexitarian, so they will eat meat, but only certain days of the week. It's very hard to put your finger on it, but you have to try. And if things go south fast, then stop. That's how easy it is. If you want to try the carnivore diet and you go all in and you feel terrible, there's probably something going on. I know that with some supplements or some medication, things could get worse in the beginning. So you're trying to treat something and your symptoms are getting worse, or even you're getting additional symptoms. This is a reality for a lot of things you can do health-wise, but with nutrition and diet, I'd be careful if things go south fast. If you have, especially if you have new symptoms that weren't there before, then you're probably eating something that you haven't been eating before and it's not agreeing with you. So you should have positive reinforcements once you start with a diet. Okay, so there's basic things like vegan, vegetarian, or just what we would call a regular diet. But a regular diet is filled with carbohydrates. I would recommend anyone and everyone to make sure that your carbohydrate intake is not too high, because we already get copious amounts of sugar in anything, and carbohydrates just convert into sugar. So it's just sugar. I'm amazed by Dutch meals, which seem to be during the day do consist mostly of bread, which is carbohydrates that turn into sugar, and then they put sugary stuff on it, and they drink sugary juices, and then some coffee with sugar. It's just amazing how the Dutch are not dying off like rabid dogs. It's unbelievable. So make sure that you follow your carbohydrate intake. So what's carbohydrate? Well, anything. It's in a lot of diets, really. So it's pasta, it's rice, it's bread, all the side dishes that seem to accompany vegetables and meat in a lot of countries. Potatoes are high in carbohydrates. Just make sure that you don't overdo it, especially when you're someone that has a high sugar intake. if you are a regular on candy or sweets or sugar or anything sugary in your tea or in your coffee, I would recommend steering away from that, putting sugary things in your drink, because, well, it's just weird, isn't it? You say I like coffee, but then you drown it in sugar and milk. What is that all about? You like coffee, but you don't like the taste. There's some things you should think about. Why do I do this? Why do I do it this way? I've been taught this way. And if you want to lower your sugar intake in coffee and tea and that kind of stuff, you have to do one step at a time, because you're going to go back to 3 lumps if you go to no lumps in one step. It's just not doable. Okay, so there are some extreme things. One of the things that seems to work best for me is what they would call a caveman diet. So that's steering away from carbohydrates at all. So you can take your greens, your vegetables, and that kind of stuff, and then it's meat. There's one thing about greens, and especially about raw greens, because a raw diet that's definitely not for everyone, because raw things seem to have a very heavy effect on the gut and on some stomachs. Apart from that, you always need with raws, you always need something fatty to be able to process it properly. So if you were to eat a whole cucumber, I would recommend a bit of cheese or something else with it, just to make it go down easier, because the raw thing, that's just hard. So what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of things, and please find out what works for you, because you can take all the medicine that you want, but there's really only one medicine that really works, and that's diet. Because you are getting symptoms because you are taking something in that is not agreeing with you. I wouldn't say that's 100% of cases. I mean, there's also external factors that can give you symptoms. There's internal factors that give you symptoms of any kind. But most of the time, it is connected to diet. So, one of the things that seems to be a hype in a lot of, well, let's say physical challenges, is that people say, oh, I have a hereditary disease. Well, we've come to the point now in our science that it seems that this is hardly ever the case. What seems to be the origin of that is that people get raised by their parents, and then they repeat their social structure, and the social structure actually results in certain symptoms given off by the body. So these are markers, these are warning signs that you should be doing things differently. And one of the things seems to be you have to break the cycle that has been in your family for a while. So that's a psychological thing, but it's also eating habits. So a lot of it comes down to eating habits. So if you want to change something for the better, if you want to feel better, find your diet, and never listen to anyone who says, well, you have to do this or you have to do that, because it may very well not work for you that well, or even be very counterproductive. So, like I said, try out your diet, make sure that you have the right water intake. If you have a stable and right water intake for you, then you can try anything and you will get results quickly, or you'll get the signs that you should stop quickly, and always listen to them. That's kind of my advice. So again, choose your diet wisely. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks a lot. Bye.